Gotta go fly, about to take flight. Gotta do the code day and night. Crafting dreams from bits and bytes. Microsoft Magic, it's out of sight. Gotta go pilot, watch it take flight. Got into the code day and night. Crafting dreams from bits and bytes. Microsoft Magic, it's out of sight.
Hey everybody, happy Thursday. It's your host with the most, Ricardo Wilkins, back again for another session of Cap4Copilot, Copilot adoption practices. If you're wondering what you've landed into, we're just here to geek out on all things Microsoft Copilot, AI chat, chat-based, best practices, all that good stuff. So glad you can make it. We are streaming live on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube. So you may be joining us from one of those two places. In either case, feel free to use the chat or the comment section, and I'll try to monitor that. So use it to say hi or to put a question in or anything like that. We'll try to monitor that as best we can. Awesome. So if you are coming from one of those two places, you may or may not have seen, one of the ads that I put in there to just show the upcoming session and what it's about. And if I can show this correctly, yeah, this is the ad that I use for today. Marshmallows are for team players. I'm curious how many people understand this reference. If you do, I'd love to see you put in the chat. You get street cred for anybody that could get in the chat and explain what this is coming from. But outside of that, we will kind of talk about a scenario here with Copilot and M365 in general that kind of shows how Copilot and all the other apps can work as a team, work together, the integration. So that's kind of where I got the team player concept, but it is a little subculture reference there. So I'll be geeked to see. I'm not even going to say anything about it just yet. Geeked to see if anybody can tell me what that's about in the chat. So that's your little homework or a little prize for today. All right. Let me fire up my environment here. So we will kind of go through some things, and I'm actually going to get a little adventurous here because I want to do a prompt to kind of kick us off and show some things. I'm going to try it with my voice though, because this one really benefits from talking to Copilot. If you've been on other sessions, I've mentioned how I think it's useful to turn that microphone on and just talk through your prompts. Keeps you from having those short, kind of curt technical requests of Copilot. Your prompts actually work a little better if they're a little more verbose. And what's more verbose than actually using your words, right from your mouth. So I'm going to go ahead, actually, and bring up my mobile device here. And in fact, I pulled out my old Surface Duo for this one in order to show this. And it also helps me to, get a microphone going, which usually is a challenge for me in my demo environment. I'm going to make this a little bigger here. And let me bring up, I'll bring up, that's the consumer, and let's keep this one here. So this is the one from Teams. So if it may look familiar, on this left-hand side here is the consumer, what we just call Microsoft Copilot, no M365 Copilot. And it has its pros as well. I'm going to go ahead, I think, in this scenario, I just put them side by side because I could, because the Surface Duo, if you're not aware, is a 2-screen device. And so it's easy to have things side by side like that. But I think I will use the M365 Copilot here. That's the one protected with enterprise data protection and all that good stuff. So let me get rid of that guy. And so I'm going to, let me make this well, let's keep it. I think you can see that pretty good. So I'm going to come in here, and I am going to use my voice. And I'm going to talk through this scenario. Let's see. So let's try to get this going here. So I use OneNote as a landing page for, and did it sound okay? As a landing page for a particular project, but I also tie a lot of to-do tasks to that OneNote, and I create loop components, which I put in that OneNote page as well, which are all, of course, attached to chats or emails across the different team members that I share it with. And I need you to make a mermaid diagram showing how all these things come together. Okay, so you can kind of see why voiced helped in that case. I don't want to type all that. And really, when I did this initially, I mean, I really was kind of speaking it as I was thinking it. So there's no punctuation. I mean, even as you listen to me just now, you probably are wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So it'll be interesting for us to see if Copilot understands my ramblings. But what I'm trying to get at is, and we'll see it in a sec, the fact that when I'm working on a project, I have things about that project in different places, all connected. I like to have a representation of that project in a to-do task. I like to have a OneNote page that has some notes there. I like to have loops because maybe I'm collaborating with some folks. And this is a real world scenario. This actually happened this week. This is why I'm bringing this here. Loop components. And then those loop components, they have interfaces into, reminders to get sent to me to Outlook. So all these things work together. It's one project, but it's multiple apps that I'm using depending on the need. Loop is really great for the real-time, collaboration, and to let each person have that loop component wherever they want it to be. OneNote is my main note-taking notebook, and To-Do, I happen to use To-Do for my tasks as well. So I like to combine them all, and that's what this is about. So I put that in there. Let's see what this generates for us. Okay, so it says, sure, it actually complimented me, says that's a well-organized system. Let's create a mermaid diagram. Now, what is a mermaid diagram? It's essentially a markup language for diagram creation. And you can see it here. This isn't a lesson on mermaid diagrams today. You can look up what is mermaid diagram, but it is a simple language for creating a charting visual call it that. And this is what Copilot came up with based on my ramblings, where I gave it all the things that I work with in the M365 stack and told it to try to visualize those relationships. Now, I mean, unless your brain works off of mermaid markup, this doesn't make too much sense, but you might be surprised to know that Microsoft Loop speaks mermaid. So I'm actually going to take this over to Loop and see what it creates for us. And in fact, I'm actually going to copy paste the one that I originally created. It was a little bigger than this, but let's get rid of this. And let's go over here. Actually, let's just go to Teams. Teams is just so convenient. All the apps are there. There's a Loop right there. So I'm gonna open that guy up. I am going to, I'll just open up a previous one just to get this thing going. So this is something I was working on before, but let's just come down to the bottom here. And let's make this a little bigger. So we want to add, if I click here and do my little slash, there's lots of things that can be added to a loop, right? You see this long list, obviously images, but if I wanted a Kanban board, if I wanted a task list, all these things. And one of the things you can see right here is a mermaid, which really falls in line of, I'll go ahead and add it here, but it's really like a code snippet that has many different options here. If I wanted actual code or some HTML, all these things are options for me to put in here. But I'm choosing mermaid and actually just put an example, a very simple one, right? I'm going to paste my stuff that Copilot gave me based on my ramblings and see what happens. So there's what, or something close to what, Copilot generated for me in chat. And that language generates this chart or visual of that, which is what I was hoping for. I just wanted to see a visual of how all these different pieces come into play. And so it is true, this connection between, I have a to-do task that references a OneNote page, that's really kind of my landing page for my project work. That page may contain a couple of loop components that I'm sharing with other team members. I shared those loops. Usually I share my loops out of Teams chats that I'm having with someone. And then Outlook is where I get emails, because Loop will send me emails based on if somebody mentions something to me, or mentions me, I should say, so forth and so on, right? And then it's got these 2 pointers to all the team members. And so that's just a nice way of kind of showing how all these things come together. Copilot would, and I have seen it actually generate, so it won't generate this visual. That's for Loop. And there are some other third-party tools out on the web that you could use to take that markup and create the visual. So Loop is not the only place where this happens. In fact, Mermaid is it's a whole thing in and of itself. But Loop plus Copilot works together to get me this visual. Copilot can, I have seen it on similar requests, create, I think it's an MDD file, which is just the file that represents that markup, which Loop doesn't know. I don't think MDD, but these other mermaid diagramming tools would. And so I was surprised at that Copilot actually, it gave me the markup, but then it also gave me a link to the file that I could download and go use wherever I wanted to. So what's the lesson here, right? One is just understanding or remembering that Copilot can speak mermaid, right? And probably some other, I haven't tried a lot of others, but there are likely other, if you told it to output it in XML or HTML, or code. I mean, Copilot can generate code and all of those things, but this may be one you may have already known about those others, but this may be one you weren't familiar with is Mermaid. You may, until not too long ago, I didn't know what Mermaid was until I kind of, was playing around with some things. And so um, think about also another scenario. I mean, I described how some of my components fit together. I've also used this by describing a process verbally, right? Using my voice. Maybe let's say maybe like some member intake process. They have to, they have to fill out an application. The application has to be approved by the board and the so and so. And I could describe all of that to Copilot and ask it again for a mermaid markup of that, which then, as you would imagine, would convert nicely into a chart, right? Because that's more sequential, maybe swim lanes, all those kind of things. And I will say that Copilot can do some charting visuals in certain scenarios. So as I've been thinking through this, I think that may be one of my future sessions here at Cap4Copilot is showing some of the scenarios where Copilot can generate graphs and charts and things, or even generate some documents like what I just described, this MDD file in this case. I've seen Copilot generate an Excel file. It will generate the table that I asked it for, but also, given that I told it I wanted to use it in Excel, would give me the Excel file. So these are subtle little, features that you may not be aware Copilot was even able to do. And so that's the kind of stuff we like to bring here. So, but this one I think was useful, just to kind of just see visually what I had described. The other thing, of course, to learn here is the power of your voice, right? The power of not having to worry about typing all of this, to just ramble on with Copilot, and it didn't even scold me about my lack of punctuation or anything. It was just ready to go, right? So whenever you can, voice to text is a nice option. And so certainly in this case, I used basically the phone's microphone there to get that done. In the case of, for instance, the consumer Copilot here, you can see the microphone. There is a microphone here. Now, I will point out that microphone is different than what I used here. There's voice to text, which is what I did. This microphone is all about actually having a conversation, a natural conversation with the voice of consumer. And I don't know if I've got my, I think I've got my audio working on this, but let's see, can you hear? Let's see. Can you hear me? I may not, I wasn't prepared to do this one. Let me try again. Can you hear me? All right, so this, I don't have this set up to work, but if you've ever used this again, you know that there are like 4 voices. In fact, there's the voice settings.
Let's explore the world together.
I don't know if you can hear that. I like the Canyon voice myself, but these are the voices that are used to talk to you while you're using that. There it is. It's talking to me now. To use to talk to you there. So maybe that's another demonstration as well for a later time. But, if you've seen commercials where people are literally just having full-blown conversations with Copilot or any kind of chat tool, that's the experience that one is talking about. All that being said, it's all about the value of voice to text in these scenarios to let you just be more creative and add more detail to these prompts. And really, I'm just trying to really help you leverage the idea of not using short, small little queries, but being long and elaborate with your query or your question. Give it lots of info. The more, maybe not the more, the better, but don't worry about long prompts like this. This is not a problem for Copilot, right? And in fact, it was probably more helpful than if I had typed it out. probably would have been a little too detailed, or well, not too detailed, but too specific maybe, and not really giving it enough context. So that's the lesson there in terms of using your voice. And of course that can be done, here in the desktop world as well. Anything, if you're on Windows, I suspect there's a Mac equivalent. I don't know what that is. I don't use Macs, but the equivalent here, Windows key and H is the shortcut for bringing up the microphone on Windows. So any place where you can type text, Windows plus H together, a shortcut, will bring up the microphone and start doing voice to text. So what you just saw me do in these mobile apps, you could also do, and I do often on the desktop as well. And that's not just for Copilot. Again, anywhere where you can type, it could be voice to text. So of course, opening up Word and I want to just rattle off the stuff that I want it to be in my document, you can do that as well. If I come here, yeah, there is not you don't see a microphone here in the Copilot, M365 Copilot. If I go to the consumer version, which I think is copilot.microsoft.com, I think. That's where you get your microphone again for that conversation experience, not just voice to text, but conversation. Using this tells Copilot you want it to respond with voice and back and forth. And turning it off, you'll see the interface switch then to text. So that's what that is there for. But I think if I'll just bring Control H. You can see it right there. In fact, let me make that a little bigger. So this is the voice to text built into Windows. You don't have to install anything there. Built into Windows. You see it's ready to go to do voice to text for you. Okay. So keep that in mind for future reference. All right. So good stuff there. But again, lastly, if I come back to where were we? I was in Teams, and come back to here. Again, just the other tidbit of info here is how cool Loop is and all the cool things that can be added to a loop, including mermaid markup. All right. So good stuff. All right. Well, that was what I wanted to show for today. Once again, props to anybody who at some point gets into the comments, lets me know where this quote is coming from. Of course, you could search for it, but and there is a Easter egg or a little clue in the image itself. But I'll let you all figure that out. I figured that'll be fun for you. But props and street cred to anybody who throws that into the comment section of either LinkedIn or YouTube. That'd be cool. Otherwise, though, again, we're here every Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see you here next week. We'll keep it going with more Copilot goodness. And, hit me up on any of the platforms if you got any thoughts on what you want to see in future sessions, and we'll make it happen. All right. So again, happy Thursday. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.